SmackDown might have laid the SmackDown on night one, but did Raw get its revenge on night two? Welcome back, guys, to Fog Wrestling, here to break down night two of the WWE draft before later breaking down the entire thing and deciding who won the battle of the draft between SmackDown versus Raw. But let's speak a little bit about night one. So I said in a previous video that SmackDown dominated night one, which they did, and people were complaining, saying, no, you're telling lies, you're not being truthful, it was an even brand, it was an even split, blah, 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 Raw got good people. No, Raw got shafted. The biggest drafts that Raw got on night one were keeping people who were already on the show. That was as good as it got for Raw. Just look at the main event scene. And I've heard some people say, but Raw got the better women. Listen, I'm going to be honest here. I know a lot of people like to lie and pretend, but the women's wrestling fucking sucks. So it doesn't matter if Raw got all the best women because nobody cares about that. It's all about the main eventers, and SmackDown clearly won the battle of the main eventers. They managed to get both Edge and Bobby Lashley from Raw. Yes, they got both Edge and Bobby Lashley from Raw. They managed to keep the real champion on their brand. And look, I don't even like Roman Reigns. The Bloodline storyline is getting stale. I totally get that. But they've got the title that matters. They've got the title that's actually been held by a champion for nearly 1,000 days. Raw's got some brand new title with no prestige that has to be introduced because nobody can beat Roman Reigns. So who got the better of the championships? I can guarantee you it's SmackDown. Even though Roman Reigns might not be there, at least when he does defend the belt, you know that guy is going for the main title and he's not just going for a hand-me-down. So SmackDown definitely won on night one. There's no doubt about that. And they even got the OC, and while I'm not keen on the OC, I mean, AJ Styles, if they can actually do something good with him, it is a big pick. Now, people are going to say Raw got Drew McIntyre. I mean, Drew McIntyre, even when he was at his best, right? Even when he was competing against Roman Reigns, like for the title last year, he was pretty boring. He was stale. And since that match against Roman Reigns in Cardiff, McIntyre's stock has went down big time. Horrible feud with Karrion Kross. He got demoted to the IC division. And the guy he's boring as fuck now. Nobody really cares about Drew McIntyre. The best pick Raw got from SmackDown on Monday night was probably Nakamura. Again, I think Nakamura's a bit overrated, but who knows? Maybe Raw can do something good with him. But for me, that was as good as it got for Raw. They managed to keep Cody Rhodes and Becky Lynch, but that's all they did. They just managed to keep those two. So I'm just not seeing it. For me, SmackDown clearly won night one, and now we're going to look at night two. We'll look at the rounds one by one, and then we'll discuss who won them, and then overall we'll also look at the drafts after Raw, and we'll come to a conclusion, guys, who won. But look, if Raw gets, let's say for example, Raw gets Cody Rhodes for SmackDown. That, to me, is a bigger draft pick than if Raw keeps Cody Rhodes on Raw. If you're taking away a top guy from the other show, that's a much bigger draft pick than if you're just keeping somebody who's already on your show. And I think people need to kind of understand that. It's just how it is. So, yeah, let's look at night one then. And we'll figure out who won what. So, brand pick one, Rhea Ripley stays on Raw. SmackDown get Austin Theory. So there you go. And then brand pick 2, Seth freaking Rollins, who's boring as fuck, stays on Raw, and Charlotte Flair stays on SmackDown, who I don't really care for either. I mean, it's obvious there. I mean, round one, SmackDown's won. Because they've gained somebody from Raw, and in my opinion, they've gained the best person out of these four. Austin Theory is the most exciting out of these four. Now, if you get excited about if Seth Rollins comes out and you start singing his little gay theme song, then knock your socks off. You know what I mean? You're entitled to do that. But Seth Rollins fucking sucks. The guy's not been interested in years. And I just don't... He's got a crap... I don't get it. His theme song's fucking boring. It sucks. There's not even any lyrics. And people come out and they're waving their... You look like... See when Seth Rollins comes out, man, and you see these people singing along or humming along, and they're doing the wee dance with their fingers, trying to like orchestrate the music or whatever. They look like absolute morons. Fucking morons. Another thing that bothered me about round one is how they had to put Rhea Ripley there just to push this whole equality agenda that females are equal to the males. And you could say, no, they're not doing that. That's a coincidence. Well, why is Rhea Ripley, first of all, why is she being drafted number 1 when there's so many people better than her? And why is she not being drafted as part of the Judgment Day? I'll tell you why she's not being drafted as part of the Judgment Day, because they didn't want her to be, like, watered down by the other 3 members. They wanted the number 1 pick to be a woman. They wanted it to be Rhea Ripley. They didn't want it to be Rhea Ripley plus the Judgment Day. They just wanted Rhea Ripley to be the forefront of the number 1 pick. Why? Well, because the Roman Reigns got drafted number 1. He's a man. He got drafted number 1 on SmackDown. So we need to make up for it this time around and draft Rhea Ripley as number 1. Because, hell, the men and women are equal in this game. I mean, bullshit. Absolute bullshit. And just look at the round 1 overall. Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, both in the first round. And then on the first night of the draft, you had Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair, both in the first round. And that's nonsense. Are you trying to tell me that out of the entire roster, the top 8 people in this company, you're telling me that they are 4 women and 4 men? Fucking bullshit. You trying to tell me on night 1, the likes, who was it, Belair and Becky Lynch, are you telling me they're getting drafted before Edge, a Hall of fucking Famer, and Bobby Lashley, a guy that can destroy people, a guy that beat Brock Lesnar 3 times last year? Are you telling me that they get drafted before them? Absolute nonsense. But of course, WWE has to push this horrible agenda. Could you imagine back in the day, the 2002 draft? Could you imagine? McMahon picks The Rock, Flair picks Hogan, but here, instead of the next pick being like the NWO or Kurt Angle, one of them needs to pick Lita, and the other one needs to pick Trick. Could you imagine that? Honestly, you're leaving all these huge main eventers behind because you need to pick a woman. That is fucking retarded. And listen, yeah, back then, Lita and Trish, they were popular. No one's denying that. I loved Lita and Trish back in the Attitude Era / Ruthless Aggression Era. But they weren't better than the majority of the male main eventers. They were not. They weren't better. They weren't more popular. They weren't better as like an attraction. They didn't have more star power. They didn't outsell them in merchandise. They weren't more fucking main event work. They just were not. Now, they were good hands. They were good in their division. But overall, they were just not as good as the fucking men. It's as simple as that. And the same goes for today. But now we have to push the women and pretend that they're 100% level to the men. And the whole thing sucks, man. It really does suck. And finally, Brock Lesnar, not even included tonight. So he was the big attraction. Look, I thought all the big guys kind of got drafted on SmackDown. You had your Roman Reigns, your Cody Rhodes, Edge, Bobby Lashley. I mean, Brock Lesnar was supposed to be the big main event draft tonight, and it didn't even happen. So yeah, it's going to change the game. Everyone's eligible. Anything can happen, apart from Brock Lesnar, because he doesn't get drafted. I mean, what a load of shit. Look, SmackDown won the first round of the draft. Easy. SmackDown retained Charlotte Flair, and they gained Austin Theory. All Raw did was retain 2 people and lose Austin Theory. So for me, 100%, Raw won. SmackDown won, round 1 of night 2. Moving on then to the next round, we have round 2. Raw got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. The Usos stayed on SmackDown. The Judgment Day stayed on Raw. And Latino World Order stayed on SmackDown. So, again, it's like, look how fucking cookie cutter and predictable this is. It's like, why the fuck can't they mix it up a little bit? Oh, look at this. Pick 3 is going to be the tag teams, and then pick 4 is going to be the stables. But I mean, they want us to believe that this is an actual live pick, that the networks are picking this, and yet everything. Why is SmackDown picking a stable just because Raw did? Why is SmackDown picking a tag team just because Raw did? They did the same shit on night 1. It's like, oh, if you're picking a tag team, we're picking a tag team. You're picking a stable, we're picking a stable. You're picking someone for NXT. Oh, we're going to pick someone. And it's like, why? This is fucking retarded. Honestly, man, I cannot stand this, how cookie cutter, and people say wrestling's fake. Well, no wonder. You look at this, you can tell this draft's fake. This draft is very fake. Just the whole layout and the whole order of these picks, man, it's absolute nonsense. But I'll give Raw the edge here in round 2 because they gained Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. whereas every other pick remained on their show. So I think it's fair to say that Raw definitely won round 2. Moving in to round 3. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez moved from SmackDown to Raw. Asuka moved from Raw to SmackDown. The New Day moved from SmackDown to Raw, and the Brawling Brutes stayed on SmackDown. So, I don't think. I mean, no, it's mad. It's like, how is this considered round 3? This is as good as the roster is, that these people make round 3 of the fucking draft. Are you shitting me? I'll probably give the nod to Raw here, because they actually gained somebody. Well, they gained 2 people. They gained Morgan and Rodriguez and the New Day, whereas SmackDown only really gained Asuka. But again, I can't say I'm excited about any of these picks. I don't care for any of these picks, but I would give it to Raw slightly. But again, nothing major. I mean, it could have went the other way and I would have given it to SmackDown slightly, but I don't think anyone's looking at round 3 here and thinking, wow, what a massive round here for Raw. Moving on to round 4, we have Trish staying on Raw. We have Karrion Kross and Scarlett staying on SmackDown. We've got Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler moving from SmackDown to Raw. And we've got LA Knight staying on SmackDown. I'm actually going to give this one to SmackDown, and I know it kind of goes against my logic here that, well, if somebody's moving from one show to another, that's a better pick. And that I would say that is true. But out of these 4 picks, LA Knight is the star here. LA Knight is the man. Some people like Kross. I personally don't, but some people like Kross. Scarlett's hot. But look, out of these picks, LA Knight is the better pick. Trish Stratus is only going to be around for a short period. She's not going to be a full-time competitor. So I don't really see the point of, me really factoring in Trish Stratus here. And Ronda Rousey, again, is like a part-timer at this stage. And she's in a tag team with Shayna Baszler, and they both look ugly as fuck. That's nothing to excite me. So yeah, I'm going to give this one to SmackDown. SmackDown, for keeping LA Knight, essentially wins round 4. Moving on to round 5. We have Braun Strowman and Ricochet moving from SmackDown to Raw. Shotzi stays on SmackDown. Bronson Reed stays on Raw. And Pretty Deadly moved from NXT to SmackDown. I'm going to give this round to SmackDown. I don't care if they lost Braun Strowman and Ricochet. Braun Strowman and Ricochet absolutely suck. SmackDown got Pretty Deadly, and for me, Pretty Deadly are the best pick out of round 5. Entertaining tag team, pretty funny on NXT. And they're different, they stand out from the rest of the roster. I actually like Pretty Deadly, so yeah, there you go. I'm giving the nod to SmackDown here. I think they got the better of round 5. And moving into the last round that happened on Raw. Raw kept the Alpha Academy. SmackDown got Rick Boogs, which nobody cares about. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter moved from NXT to Raw, and Cameron Grimes moved from NXT to SmackDown. You know what? I think this one's a bit of a tie. Definitely SmackDown got the better NXT pick here. Overall, SmackDown definitely got the better NXT picks, but in this round, you prefer Cameron Grimes over the 2 fucking 90-pound women. And yeah, Rick Boogs moving to SmackDown for Raw. It's not exactly great. I'm actually going to give this nod to SmackDown here. Yeah, why not? Although I kind of do like the Alpha Academy, I'll give the nod to SmackDown for winning that one. So overall, I think I tied... Did I tie it 3-3? I gave round 6 to SmackDown. I gave round 5 to SmackDown. I gave round 4 to SmackDown. I think I gave round 2 to SmackDown as well. No, I gave round 2 to Raw. I gave round 1 to SmackDown. So I've actually gave it 4 rounds to 2 for SmackDown. And then the supplement draft picks on Raw Talk. So we had Tosawa Raw to Raw, Brooke Raw, Emma SmackDown to Raw, Grayson Waller NXT to SmackDown, Indus Sher NXT to Raw, Gargano Raw to Raw, Los Lotharios SmackDown to Raw, Nikki Cross Raw, Odyssey Jones NXT to Raw, Piper Niven Raw, Riddick Moss SmackDown to Raw, Tamina Raw to SmackDown, Tegan Nox SmackDown to Raw, and Shia Lee SmackDown to Raw. Look, all these picks, apart from Grayson Waller, fucking suck. They do. Grayson Waller, you can even tell. And why wasn't Grayson Waller picked on the main show? For God's sake. He gets up, he cuts a pretty entertaining promo. He's certainly done more than everyone else in this fucking draft. I honestly believe Grayson Waller's a future main eventer. I think this guy can headline WrestleMania. within like maybe 3 to 4 years. So yeah, for me, NXT, they might have only got 2 people, but here, it doesn't matter. They got Grayson Waller. Tamina, she can go to Raw if she wants. Grayson Waller's going to SmackDown, and for me, that makes SmackDown here the better of both of these shows. The fact that they got Grayson Waller, he's just better than everyone else here in the supplement draft, and I think SmackDown also got the better of the people on the show. So while I didn't think Night 2, it wasn't a massive win for SmackDown, I would still give them the nod, guys. I'd still give SmackDown the nod for Night 2. That's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down below. Yeah, probably will make a video tomorrow. Me and my brother, we can go over this entire draft and we can come to a conclusion on who we think overall won this. For me, it's SmackDown. He might have a different opinion. If you want to leave some comments, I'll factor them in. But yeah, nah, for me, SmackDown won this. I mean, Brock Lesnar didn't even go to Raw, and that could have been a big deciding factor. I think that's what we were all expecting. You know what I mean? Roman Reigns is going to SmackDown, so Brock Lesnar has to go to Raw, but then they throw the whole free agent thing at you, and it's like, wow, okay. Fuck, where is the main eventers, man? Where are the main eventers in this WWE roster? There's barely any. I tell you that, there's barely any. So yeah, we'll see what happens, guys. Catch you in the next one. Peace.